Hello. All right, babies. Arrogance. Let's talk about arrogance. And I'm not saying arrogance with people, I'm saying when you are arrogant in your head. Why? Let's start with something that happened and how I poorly handled it. I did apologize. It wasn't accepted. It wasn't acknowledged, not accepted. It just wasn't acknowledged. I think I'm tired of being babied. Does that make sense? You know, when you say sorry about something, you kind of want to be genuine, but most of the time when you're saying sorry about something, you're expecting that hesitation. You want the other people to be like, it's okay. And I think that's kind of like I think that's the resistance that you have. And you wanting to apologize versus you not wanting to apologize. So here, forget arrogance. I think I'll get to this in a different video or the next video after this. But I want to talk about triggers. Like we ideally in a life, we kind of create our own triggers in order for us to function certain kinds of ways and to like push to certain in certain directions. But life as well throws shit at us and creates these triggers. So here's a brief story about what's going on with me and what's going on basically within the world of family. My grandmother is, I think, 96 years old now, or 90, between 94 to 96. Very old. And the past couple of years have not been very nice to her. She's lost her sight. She hasn't been able to move. She just like sits in her bed all day, staring into the abyss and slowly coming back and forth from consciousness. And I didn't like how my family handled her. There, it's not. I am reflecting on how she would have felt when they were uncomfortable with what's happening, and they kind of like the way you talk to somebody who's not really there. I think it kind of like removes any pride they had in themselves. The way even if their mind is not there, they still have emotions and feelings, which is something I never could understand until like recently, the past 4 years, like empathy and all that, like awareness, awakening kind of shit. So yesterday night, I went to kind of see her because I really hope these are her last moments because like nobody would want to exist the way she is right now. I doubt anyone would want to just be sitting in a bed, not being able to swallow anything, not being able to speak, and not being able to move. Barely, like her hands barely moved today when I was like holding them. And 2 weeks ago, she was able to move her hands, but she was like back and forth from remembering me. I really hope I actually like did good when it comes to visiting her and checking up on her and being there next to her and like actually like showing her how much I loved her. But then today, a few people came to visit. My aunts were there, and my aunts are being all this emotional mess. And I don't know, man. I don't really. They're sensitive to what's going on, but I think their love is shit. I shouldn't judge, but whatever. I don't really like see how they express love as a genuine way of expressing love. You kind of have to believe that it's true, and we all know that when it comes to belief, I think belief is based on what we're ignorant about. So we just kind of like look at a vacancy in ourselves and we go like, okay, so I'm going to believe this fills this works, so I don't have to consider this kind of like void. And it's funny because like this brings me back to a conversation to I think one of the physicists turned philosophers, all physicists turned philosophers, was discussing is like when you first enter into physics or math, you basically kind of like you see the mechanics behind everything and you lose your faith. But the deeper you enter physics and math, the more you kind of realize like you don't necessarily need faith. You kind of are achieving a lot more of an understanding of whatever could exist. So it stops becoming faith. It starts becoming like a painted picture of something beyond you. And I think I explained that once before because once you dive into a subject, you start with like, I'm just observing it from the outside, and what I can see is just barely the surface, but I don't really understand what's going on. And as I dive deeper into the understanding, I kind of like engage with every single node, every single part of it, every single word that explains it, every single aspect of it, corner of it. I dive into all these things. And then when I dive, I have to combine them together in order to get back to the surface again. And then basically, I'm still at the surface where I started. But this time, anytime I want to dive deep, I don't have to think, it's already there because I found my way back out. And, anyways, some guy was sitting, was like an old dude. I remember him when I was a kid. He's a very good guy. But one of his kids did not get married, and he's in his 50s. And he's in Dubai. And when he was asked about his children because, like, that's what plain people discuss. Like, how are you? How are your children? What did you go? What did you do? And it's fucked up because, like, there's if you have anything interesting about your life, you kind of like talk about that interesting stuff. If you don't have anything interesting in your life, you kind of discuss the people that you share in common. Uh, yeah, whatever. That's basically village life for you. But his initial reaction was like, he's still not married. She's fine, whatever. Like, he pointed out something obvious. But what triggered me was the longer he takes, the less he would be able to be in a healthy relationship. And then I was like, what? And then he's talking about his son, man. And he goes like, now, even if he wants to be a father, he's not going to be a good one. And I'm like, no. And I respond like this out loud. I don't agree. And you guys are practically speaking off your ass. And that's literally what I said in Arabic. And then all of them went quiet. And then my cousin kind of like was like, hey. And it almost got into like something. I don't know. Like, I did not want, there was no point there as an argument. It couldn't have been won. There's no winning argument. There's literally how I look at you judging a guy without actually knowing anything. And then basically somebody kind of like going, you can't be disrespectful to people, even though they were disrespecting the guy in front of me, because I saw it as a disrespectful thing. They're discussing the guy in front of me. And keep in mind, I don't really know the guy. I know him, like I saw him many times when I was a kid, and he was very nice to me and he's a friend of my dad's. But I don't really like know him. But the guy never got married, and it doesn't really mean he's not going to be a good father. And I think that part triggered me because like the minute everyone looks like, all right, you've done, all right. So I looked at him, I was like, and how can we judge that he's not going to be a good father when you yourself don't understand what it means to actually be single or to be in a healthy relationship? All of them shut the fuck up. And then I looked at my cousin, I was like, another cousin of mine, and I was like, that triggered me. And I was wondering if it's the coffee that triggered me, or if it's their presence that triggered me, or if it's the word that triggered me. But it was a trigger point, and this is what I want to talk about. And our basically, this video is a storyline of one of those moments where I actually find myself around family and how I find myself triggered by the people I'm supposed to care about. Frankly, I don't know if I care about them or not. I'm not trying to be an asshole about it. Like, I know I have love for them. I know I wish them well, and I know I want them to be happy. But caring for me is different. Like, what do you normally care about? What do you normally like exist with? And for me now, I can't help but look at it and be like, when I'm not around, these guys are literally going, poor baby, oh, it's a shame. And I'm wondering, and they do that. They do that. But I think that's how they express love, which is for me pitiful. They're always they, they can't point at anything positive. They can't point at anything exciting. They can't point at anything. I wonder if all families are like this or just our side of the world's families, the culture that we have as like Lebanese people or Arabs or stuff like this. I don't know what it is, but I discovered a trigger today, and the trigger was fatherhood. I honestly think people that take longer to get married would be better fathers because they're a lot more aware about their own shit and they don't really impose it on their kids. I honestly believe that you have to be more of yourself in order for whatever you raise into this world to understand what themselves truly is. Like if my parents were a lot less, we got married to have children and more or less we actually wanted to be parents. A big difference between like I got married, I had children because I had to, it's the time and all that shit, versus I want to actually be a parent and I want to bring a child to this world and like explore something with him or her. I don't know, man. I discovered a trigger to today and instantly reflected on my family and my arrogance towards how I looked at them. And here I am. The next video is going to be about arrogance. Let's see how that goes. Thank you, guys.